been in Knox County Republican politics since I turned 18 years old. I grew up in the Gibbs community, come from a family of 6 kids. My dad's retired military after serving 20 plus years in the United States Army through Korea, Vietnam twice, and post-World War II. He passed away soon be 3 years, buried over here at Veterans Cemetery on John Sevier. I went to college. I am a licensed funeral director and embalmer. I've been doing that since 1982. I was licensed, so I'm soon looking at, well, I'm 35 plus years as one licensed funeral director and embalmer in the state of Tennessee. A couple years ago, back in 2000, I joined the Circuit Court Clerk's office, where I began as not chief deputy, but a deputy clerk. And through the years, I worked my way up to where I was the chief deputy clerk of the Circuit Court. And it is civil sessions. There's 4 courts that the Circuit Court Clerk's office governs, and it is the Circuit Court, which is our main primary jury court for Knox County. They hear all cases such as automobile accidents where you're hurt, you've got back problems, and you want a jury trial. Wrongful death, where doctors are sued, when the patient feels the doctor's made a mistake, they took the wrong leg off if they were having that done, or something like that, or a death occurred. So they're the primary jury court for Knox County. And then you have what we call civil sessions. It is what a lot of judges in general sessions refer to as 5th sessions. You have 4 criminal sessions courts, and then the 5th sessions is what we call civil sessions. And that is the Judge Judy Court, as most people refer to it. It is anything $25,000 and under. They hear all those cases, and then they also hear on Tuesdays what we call detainer, which is landlord-tenant issues. And on that, there is no limit amount you can sue for on the detainer. They also hear all handgun appeals. Civil court does through where the district attorney has denied someone a handgun permit. And then moving down to juvenile court, there's 2 divisions down there. You have juvenile court itself, which deals with anything of minor children, truancy, smoking, drinking, vandalism, and all. And then there is child support 4D, and this is referred to mostly as unwed parents court. This is where someone is pregnant and they go there, and then we do the paternity testing, the court does, find out who the father is, and then we go from there. And unfortunately, a lot of those people are also juveniles in that court. So it's a very busy court. Circuit court's not as busy. Sessions usually handles about 23,000 new filings a year, which is a huge, huge amount of filings. It's a very fast-paced court. The judges there do an unbelievable job. I think 2 weeks ago, or this past Wednesday, excuse me, they had over 500 cases, one of the judges did. And they moved through those cases very fast. And so that's what it's there for. It's quick justice, I guess you would call it. So I did that job until in 15, and now I'm presently employed with the Bridges Funeral Home over on Rutledge Pike, where I am one of their funeral directors and embalmers. Like I said, I grew up, I was not born here because my dad was in service. I was born in White Sands Missile Range, New Mexico, a long ways from here. And then when Dad was sent to Vietnam the first time, my mother is from the Gibbs community, so she located next to her parents with 6 kids. And my grandparents helped us while Dad was in Vietnam for 18 months. He came back, we moved back to Fort Knox, Kentucky. This is a long time ago. When we were in Fort Knox, Martin Luther King was assassinated, and my father went to Washington, D.C. for riot control, for those of you who remember all that when Martin Luther King was assassinated. After that, he was sent back to Vietnam, where we located back here in Knox County in the Gibbs community again. And once he served his 18 months there, he retired, and we have since stayed here. So as I tell people, I'm not a native Tennessean, but I am a Tennessean. You can tell by the way I talk. Very, very, very East Tennessee Gibbs community. Mr. Cry alluded, why do people want to run? A lot of people question that. And I think the big question that is a good one is, why do you run? And my first answer would be, you run to make a change. That is what you need to do. If you're running, you are looking for a change in an office. This is what we term a fee office, which Knox County has several fee offices. A lot of the voters are a little confused about what fee offices are. The fee office, that office charges for everything it does. Our state representatives, state senators, they set a fee that when a new warrant is filed with a county, that so much the clerk of that county can keep. And then the clerk uses that money to meet the needs of the office, to pay salaries, and all that is turned over to Knox County Trustee's office. The trustee writes the check out and all. Now, one thing with that office is about half the employees are under the county. Child support and juvenile do not take in any fees to be able to pay, so they go in the hole. So about half the employees are under Knox County, so therefore all the employees were treated as Knox County employees. We all had the same benefits, everything like that. But the big thing with, the court needs to do that they've not been doing, that I think we're missing, is the last, I think, 9 years, the present clerk has turned no money over to the general fund of Knox County. Mr. Bustler might be able to correct me on that, but if you check the records, you'll see there's no funds been turned over to the general fund. It is a money-making court. The court is there. The court is not supposed to be kept up by the taxpayers, and the court is supposed to be kept up as a fee office, and Mike Hammond has shown that. Last year, he turned over $800,000 in excess fee. And my understanding is this year, he has already turned over $500,000. So in 2 years, you're looking at $1.2+ million he's turned over to Knox County General Fund. What does that mean to you all as taxpayers? Your taxes don't go up. That money is there for commission to use to pay for road projects, schools, and things like that. For us in the Gibbs community, we are experiencing a new middle school we've wanted for a long time being built. So that's something that community is very proud of and all. So the court itself is a very large animal. The person who takes over as clerk on day one needs to know what they're doing. It's not an office you can go in and learn that office. You need to know what that office does, because there's all sorts of terms. You have appeals to the appellate court with the state. You need to know how to do it. It has to be done. You violate that deadline, the state will fine the clerk's office for not meeting the deadline. The same way from any of the courts, they all have appeals. You've got to meet that appeal deadline in a certain period. There's also things that come up from juvenile that have a 48-hour period that the clerk must deal with, and it has to be signed off and dealt with. And the failure to do that is a violation of that minor's rights. The big thing with juvenile court that a lot of people don't understand by minors, nothing is public. Nothing can be public record because it is minors that are down there, and so therefore all their information is protected. The big thing juvenile does, they do emergency removals where a child is removed out of a home where there's abuse going on, or there's drugs being used and all that. So the clerk is part of that, and all that is filed in the clerk's office. It has to be kept secret because the officer is sent out, that child's removed from the home and placed in a safe home. So there's a lot that goes on, and you have to know all 4 aspects of that office. It's not just going in and sitting in an office and signing your name to anything. The court in circuit court also holds several minor settlements where a child's parents have been killed in a car wreck, and there is a judgment, and that child might be 10 years old. That minor settlement is placed in a trust fund until that child turns 18. It is the clerk's responsibility to file that or place that money in an institution that will draw the best interest for that minor, because at age 18, that child comes in and that money is immediately turned over to that child, because that's the way the law is. There's several other things with the office that has to be done accordingly by law. There's taxes that have to be paid to the state of Tennessee by the 15th of every month. Failure to do so will result in a penalty against the clerk's office. Knox County is the same way. You have to pay your taxes that you collect on those new filings every month by the 15th. And Knox County looks for it because we are paying the deputies to do service of warrants and all, and that's how the Sheriff's Department pays the Civil Warrant Division. A lot of the money they do is service of our warrants, and they're paid X number of dollars for that. So as you can see, it's a quite diverse court. It does not involve just one aspect. but it involves juveniles all the way to Brent, to Judge Judy type issues where you have neighbors problems going between the board or a tree, and you have to be there on a daily basis. You have to be there, and you have to have the right staff under you to make sure the court functions. Any questions?
Why do you think that President Clerk has determined over your money?
I have my suspicions, which as the campaign gets closer, I will give you my campaign platform, and I'll give you what Clerk hasn't been doing that I think can be turned around and turn that money over to.
Prior to 9 years ago, what kind of fees were turned over? What were you talking financially?
1 year we turned over 185,000. 1 year was a little under 100,000. When I was in General Sessions Court, 1 month, just that court, the money that court made was over 100,000 for a month. Okay, if you've got a court taking in that much money, where's it going is my question. There should be money, the taxpayer should be the one benefiting from, and the way the court is fixed, those who use the court should pay for the usage of the court, but not the taxpayers. Yes, sir.
Would you ever see, and this is for all three candidates, once you become the clerk, do you see a position within your office for the current clerk?
No. I think anytime a new administration comes in an office, your upper management, to me, at this point, I think needs to be changed.
How many people are employed in that office? Approximately.
Approximately around 65. It's a big staff. Any other questions?
I'd like to know from every candidate why you decided to run and what experience you bring to the office.
With the experience I bring, of course, is being the chief deputy, not because I'm not running against the current clerk, needless to say, but there's several things the clerk could do differently. And I tried to implement certain changes. Some of my changes were implemented, and then some weren't. And there's changes that could be implemented where in sessions, when I started in sessions, none of the employees knew what any other employee did. So we implemented cross-training. And so that was a biggie. So now Sessions Court cross-trains. Unfortunately, some of the other courts, when I would go down to juvenile or something, some employee might ask them, the front counter's backed up, can you help them? That's not my job. We don't know we don't do that. We stay where we're at. Well, the last thing even in my business, the one word I never want to hear any employee say is, it's not my job. Because I think when you work in a system, be it a court system, a funeral home, you need to know what you're doing. You shouldn't depend on one person to make it or break it, because for the public, when they're there, they need assistance, and that's, to me, what the office should do. On experience, I have the experience of being in the court. I know the judges, I know what needs to be done, I know the timelines, I know the filings, I know the taxes, how it's all computed. It has to be done. This isn't something you just would like to do, but this is mandatory. Also, under the fee office statutes, the clerk must keep up to 3 months in surplus of salaries, and that is required by law. So those are things, there's certain laws you have to abide by. And my question is, you go see somebody for legal advice that's not an attorney. You go to a funeral home that's not licensed funeral director. We have certain things, and we choose those because of licenses. I've been in the court, I was there for 15 years, so I know the court, and that makes a big difference